Hey guys, welcome back to a quick episode of Dirty Dave's Garage. Talking about, this is a 2002 Jeep Wrangler TJ, rear shocks and troubles you run into getting them off. When I was taking them off, there's 4 bolts at the top. They use those little T-bars to connect them. And the bolts have a habit of snapping off. I got one out successfully, the other 3 all snapped off. I've seen a lot of videos where guys will drop the tank to get to these and grind the heads off, but I'm going to show you an easier way to do it. This is the actual place where the shock mounts. These are the bolt holes. There's not a lot of room here by the frame. It's a 13 mil head. You can't really get up there to put any penetrating lube on or anything else. I mean, I tried, it didn't help. The bolts snapped off. But what I did, you know, on the other side, there's a little like welded in, tack welded nut that the screws go up into, and that's what they break off into, and then you can't get the thing out and put a new screw in. So what I do, and what's worked for me, is I take, as soon as I find it in this calamity of a garage of mine, an air impact hammer with a chisel point tip. I bought a real long one. I couldn't find my short one. And I just put this up on the head of the screw that's left in there where it's broken off and fire away with the air compressed air hammer, and those welded nuts will break free. Now, 2 of the 3 of mine came right out within a few seconds. The last one gave me a hard time. Of course, it was the one right here by the frame, but I just kept working on it. It took me, I don't know, maybe a minute or 2 of full just banging on that thing with that air chisel, and it finally popped free. Now once you got them free, what I'm doing, and I'm waiting on some bolts for the other side, this is what a bar pin eliminator looks like. I'll put links to this stuff down in the description too. But you put this up there, and then you can just use a regular shock bolt to mount your shocks in case you need to change them out in the future. So what I did, the local stores with hardware was kind of limited. I used some, I think they were 5/16 bolts on the other side for the one that was missing. And I put a washer, because the 5/16 head, it's not quite big enough. I felt comfortable. I just drop them in. I'll show you what I do. Take this bolt and drop it in from the top and have it stick down. So as you can imagine, when you're trying to tighten that bar pin on there, it's tough because this is kind of loose. So what I do is I put the bar pin eliminator over top of it. Once I get the 2 screws in, this is really hard to film it from this angle. Let's see if I can get under it and show you. Once you get the screw through one side, there we go. Let's see if it'll focus. Not going to cooperate, but you get the idea. Just push on the bar pin a little until you get a little tension on the screw and get your nut threaded on there. Problem with these I ran into, putting the washer on and then a lock washer, because once you get a little tension on it with the lock washer on the upper side of it, it kind of holds the bolt, and you can get a finger on it to hold it till you get it finger tight from over top. Really wish you could see this. Let me get up here and try. It's just not at a good spot to try and film, but you can slip your finger over the top to hold the head of the bolt. There you go. It's a little blurry, but you can see I'm pushing the bolt down and then putting tension on it with my thumb against it. And you gotta have some nimble fingers, I'm not gonna lie. And then I put a lock washer and a nut underneath. Problem I ran into with these, and you have to get the right length, because if you go with 1¼ inch, it's too long, and then your bolt's not going to fit through for the shock when you go to mount the shock up through the regular hole and not use that bar pin in the new shock. So for this one, I found online 1 long 3/8 hex head bolts with a serrated flange on the back side of them that kind of look more like factory bolts. I might have one here I can show you what I'm talking about. Well, they kind of look like this. That's a flange head bolt. Let me get it up here where, except underneath here, it's serrated, so it's like a built-in lock washer. So that saves you some space. So you can go with the 1 inch long, 3/8 size bolt. It's seeing if I have one here. It's a 3/8-16 by 1 inch bolt. These are 1 1/4. I tried them, they were too long. They were sticking in the way of the bolt I'm gonna need to put in for the shock. So you want 1 inch long, 3/8 size flange head serrated bolts. And that way you can drop it in without any washers taking up space, and then just put, and I actually ordered the serrated bolt to go underneath, so I don't need a lock washer underneath either. And I'm gonna put red Loctite on them so they don't come off. So once you get them in there, then you only gotta thread the nut on. You can hold it, and once it's tight, it's a little easier to put it in. And basically, you're done with that hole up there. And yeah, it pushes your shock down a little bit, but that's okay. It's just gonna, maybe a 1/2 inch on each end. So 1 inch, the shock's gonna be maybe an inch longer, but I'm in the process of putting bigger springs on for a little 2-inch lift on this Wrangler anyway. These are the new springs. So got them from Rusty's Off-Road. They have a 2-inch kit that comes with springs and shocks. They're like $350. You can't beat it. But the springs are another story. They were a real fun thing to put in. Let me tell you, usually it's really easy. This thing gave me a hard time. I had to remove both control arms, lower control arms, and I had a hell of a time getting them back in. But if you can, just take one control arm off at a time. A lot of people just take the track bar off. Mine, the bolts are so seized, I stripped out a Torx T55 on this end where it goes into the bracket. So I couldn't get this bolt out to release it, the track bar. So I ended up just taking the control arms off, which was a pain in the butt, like I said. But hopefully the tip will help you. It'll save you some headache punching those welded nuts out and just putting new bolts in. Because again, if you put those bar pin eliminators in, you'll never need to deal with that mess again. You'll have the one bolt up there, put a little anti-seize on it, lock it in, and be done with it. So good luck, happy wrenching, and we'll be back with more episodes of Dirty Dave's Garage.